Mary Novit! This is my old corner? What the hell's my Bleach poster? I think the Dread cardboard's just like hidden away back there. Need to get a bigger place. Anyway, I've been pretty busy recently, so I haven't had time to do reviews like I normally do. Hopefully I'm going to be fixing that this month. Fingers crossed to see how that goes. It's probably not going to go well. So I have a little list of films that I want to talk about that I didn't have time to do full reviews for. So, let's get to it. Flatliners. The film dragged on and felt like it had a lot of scenes that really should have been cut. But at the same time, it does a great job of building atmosphere, and the situation is actually a very interesting and thought-provoking one. I love that where a lot of horror movies zig, this film zags, if that makes any sense. There's a lot of situations where I was expecting a jump scare. It didn't happen, but it was replaced by something else. It's kind of hard to explain. Imagine there's a false scare and someone's like, pull back the curtains or something, and like, oh, the killer's there. You expect the killer to be right behind them. It doesn't happen for a couple seconds. The character answers the phone, and then suddenly there's just this face just comes into view over the shoulder behind them. No music, no sound effects, it just turns and it's gone. That to me is far scarier than any jump scare that you could pull. It has a great atmosphere, and mainly it's because I didn't see the original, but I feel like this is a pretty underrated film. I actually highly recommend giving it a second chance, kind of viewing it on its own merits. Flatliners tells the story of a bunch of medical students who stop their own heart and try to see what happens when you die. Turns out you go to Silent Hill. So for me, it's a 5 out of 10. Victoria and Abdul. Really, I saw this? Hopefully this gives you an idea of the kind of things that my sister will drag me to. And by drag, I mean I was actually kind of interested and I had nothing better to do. Telling the real-life relationship between Queen Victoria and a man named Abdul. I can't remember the rest of his name. I gotta be honest, I wasn't expecting this to be a comedy. Like, the first 3/4 of this film is pretty much just comedy. It's different situational comedy, it's different character comedy, it's actually pretty funny. And the characters all carry themselves pretty well as well. You got Abdul's quirky best friend, you've got the doctors and the people who are like, what? Queen Elizabeth is hanging out with a Muslim? Oh my god! And while a lot of people have criticised Abdul's performance, I found it to be pretty charming. He seemed to enjoy what he was talking about, and that actually kind of made me somewhat invested in him because he seemed kind of likable. Then you got Dame Judi Dench as Queen Victoria. My god, she just kind of steals the second half of this film. Like, it's mostly carried by her, I feel. And some of the harsher turns that happen later on in the film feel like they earned a lot more because of the comedy that was in the first part of it. One of those situations where you actually grow to like the characters and become invested in the situation, and then it heel turns on you and suddenly everything goes sad and you're kind of upset about it. I don't think I would have had nearly as much praise for this if it was serious the entire way through. So it's an 8 out of 10 for me. Really enjoyed it. Blade Runner 2049 tells the story of a guy who goes around hunting down robots who should have been deactivated. Of course, it's a lot more complicated than that, but I want to give you something to hold on to. What's immediately striking thing about this film is just the design of everything. And when you see a lot of futuristic cities, more often than not, they are ripping off the original Blade Runner. But this one kind of made it feel fresh again and kind of reinvented itself. The way everything looks futuristic but at the same time dirty and run down is just really interesting to look at. Also, a lot of the fancier areas of this future world also look a lot different than you might expect. Like the main headquarters where they make the replicants, looks like it's made out of wood and it has like a lot of orange lighting to it. You wouldn't expect that, would you? You'd expect everything to be like very white and sterile. But no, it just kind of has its own unique feeling to it. Who uses wood in the future? Then again, there was a line saying that wood was actually a very valuable resource and not many people actually see in a tree. I think that might be kind of clever. Only the rich people get wood, it seems. Don't take that out of context. Also, I love the sound design, just like the way the music is played or isn't played at certain scenes. And when something violent or aggressive is happening, just the sound and the characters' voices just give it that much more of an impact. Also the themes and ideas that it explores, like the relationship between our main character and his holographic wife, and all the stuff that's involved in that. It took the original movie and made something all its own. And even if you haven't seen the original Blade Runner, I highly recommend checking this out in the cinema if it's not too late in your local area. Though the one thing I don't like was the villains. What were they doing? Like, at any point in this film. I mean, one of the villains seems to want to have the power to have replicants give birth, because then he can breed more soldiers. But this other one seems to want to start some kind of revolution, because humans are afraid of us. And later on he wants Deckard from the original film. For some reason. Was that the original goal? Is he the key to this? Because he didn't seem to know. Literally, in the film, he has no context as to what these people want or where it is. He just kind of invites him to his house and acts kind of weird. I don't know if that was in the script or Jared Leto just kind of ambushed Harrison Ford after hours. I don't know. So for me, it's a 7 out of 10. If the villains could sort their shit out and I could find some characters that I could like really get invested in, then I would think I would love this. Because I do love like fantastic looking films and films with very interesting ideas. If you saw my reviews of Ghost in the Shell, you know I love that kind of thing. But I feel like for me to like really get invested, I do need characters to kind of sink my teeth into. And unfortunately this film didn't deliver on that, so I wish I could give it higher praise, but ultimately it's a 7 out of 10 for me. I really highly recommend seeing this in the cinema. And lastly, Thor Ragnorok, the latest in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Quite frankly, this series has gotten rather stale if you do ask me. I mean, Thor Ragnarok, pretty much exactly the same movie as Spider-Man Homecoming. Thor Ragnarok tells the story of a dude named Thor, and he's trying to stop his sister, the god of death Hela, from taking over the universe. That's like the kind of thing you'd want to stop. The first thing that I want to talk about is that there's a lot of bad line reads in this, even from like established actors. There's a scene where Anthony Hopkins is supposed to tell his sons that he loves them, and I just didn't believe it for a second. It was like, really? You couldn't try this again? Did Anthony not want to read it that way or something? There's a lot of times in this where you kind of feel like, one more take maybe, one more take? Nah, now we're just moving on. Okay. Just leave it in there then. Also, the tone of the film feels kind of off. Moments that are supposed to have a lot of weight to them are kind of ruined by comedy. There's one part in very particular at the very end which is supposed to be a big moment, and it's ruined by a joke. And that really is a problem when this is the conclusion of a trilogy of films, and there's big things that happen in this. I'm not sure what Marvel's plans are for going forward. Honestly, I prefer if they left it as a trilogy, but that's just me. There's so many huge implications for the character, especially further on down the line, and for the Marvel Universe in general, but it feels like it's constantly being dragged back because it's trying to be funny. Fortunately though, this film is very funny. It's just got a very fun tone to it, and I really, really dig it. If you're a fan of the character Loki, he's in this film a lot, and he's a lot of great banter with Thor. Also, this film has some fantastic action as well. I thought it was only going to be like very Guardians of the Galaxy laser shooting, but pretty much all the fights in this, most of them anyway, are all done with like swords and lightning hammers and stuff like that. Is very, very embedded in the fantasy roots that the series started with. Like the film starts with Thor fighting demons in what looks like Mordor. That, right from out of the gate, felt like it was a very fantasy film. Which is what I want the series to focus more on because it helps give it its own identity. I also really love the visuals of this film. Just a lot of things that are very pretty to look at. Colour especially is a big thing, and it's really glad to see colour in this after The Dark World. You know, you didn't have to take that literally for everywhere that wasn't The Dark World. You could have had some colour and less Kat Dennings. Also, I really like the characters. From the new guys to the old guys, everyone just felt very likeable, especially the villain. I kind of feel like hard to give strong criticisms for anyone in particular, because partially because the tone of the film feels at odds with itself at the time, I can't really give like huge praise to a character's development or anything like that, so I'm just gonna say, I liked everybody. Everybody wins. So it's a 7 out of 10. That may seem like a pretty low score considering what my personal tastes are, but I'm trying to be objective here and say, this is a fun film. Not the greatest film, but a really fun one, and I highly recommend it. It's awesome. That does it for the roundup. Hopefully I won't have to do another one of these for a long time. I'm going to definitely try and buckle down and focus more on reviews. Not just recent stuff, I'm also going to try and do more retro reviews as well. Also, if you've been following the channel for a while, you might know that I did a series a long time ago. Well, hopefully that'll be coming back around Christmas time. Probably going to have to dig Chris out of the wormhole that he kind of fell into. Whatever happened to that guy? I mean, the character, the guy who plays him, is still very much alive. He was in a video released the same day as this. But where did the character go?
Theorizing that one could time travel within his own lifetime, Dr. Sam Beckett stepped into the quantum leap accelerator and vanished.
I'm sure it's probably fine. See you soon.